Welcome to Trust the Journey. I'm Melanie Curtis.
And I'm Jason Moletsky.
Thank you, legit, for joining us today.
Yeah, our mission is living and learning, laughing and loving together with you.
We're here to grow and contribute through our practice of openness, honesty, vulnerability, humility, and trust, trusting the entire journey.
Yeah, and on that journey, we often talk about plant medicines, psychedelics, and other avenues of healing. When we do, we are sharing for informational purposes only. We're not doctors or therapists, and we don't promote doing anything illegal.
Inside us all, we have a deep, powerful knowing. We encourage curiosity, healing, and exploration of this consciousness.
Damn straight. Together, our handle is trustthejourney.today. Individually, you can find her at melaniecurtis.com and me at jasonmoletsky.com.
Thank you all again so much for being with us. On to the show.
Good day. Welcome. Today, I'm very excited. I have my very good friend, Autumn Payne, here today in her studio.
Yes.
Autumn is the founder of the Ethical Narrative, where storytelling becomes a force for positive change. Since 2021, Ethical Narrative has achieved remarkable results, raising millions of dollars for nonprofits and amplifying their social reach. Deeply invested in client success, Ethical Narrative goes beyond individual projects, reflecting a profound dedication to uplifting our world through art. Autumn is an award-winning multimedia journalist with 14 years of experience at the Sacramento Bee, brings a wealth of expertise, versatile and scrappy.
Yeah.
Scrappy is very accurate.
Yes.
She fearlessly navigates diverse conditions, be it fires, floods, or skydiving. Comfortable in the midst of difficulty, she welcomes storytellers from all walks of life. Autumn holds space for anyone with a story to tell, ensuring they are heard because she believes in the healing power of shared narratives. When not capturing stories that change the world, you'll find Autumn immersed in the joys of gardening, climbing, and adventuring at home and with her husband and kids.
That's right.
It's an adventure here in the home.
Absolutely. You know that.
Yeah. So I'm so happy to have you on the show. Autumn and I have been friends personally for many years now, since she became partnered with one of my very best friends, my personal brother, Jackson, her husband. And we've become closer and closer and closer over the years. And part of that has been because of this shared love for my brother, her husband. And part of that has been because of our mirrored journeys in life and spirituality and growth as humans. So I'm really excited to have this opportunity to be in the same space together. And I think there's something special in just diving into this, like the fact that we've started to like each other more, like at first I think we
Maybe
did.
even love each
Maybe
other.
definitely love each other. I
Yeah.
think there's a difference between liking each other and loving each other.
That's true. I think we always loved each other.
Because he took care of a
But
guy that I love very much, but we didn't always jive. But there's
Yeah.
been this closer and closer thing. And so welcome to Trust the Journey. Thank you for
Yeah.
being on the show.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for asking me.
Yeah. Autumn is also a member of the Trust the Journey family. So those of you who are in the family, you would have seen her posts, her shares, and comments. And for me, it's always really special to have family members on the show because it shows the diversity of our group and kind of gives us a little more insight into each other. And so stepping from your bio into who is Autumn Payne? Broad question.
That is a big, you're going to start off with that one.
I'm going to say it because I feel you would have answered this very differently 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely.
Right. And now I think you're much better prepared to answer that question with a whole, like a surmised but whole version of that.
I would say that Autumn Payne is now a healed person, and part of what caused us to have our difficulties before is we kind of saw the worst in each other because we saw the worst in
Oh
ourselves.
God.
Would you say that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think part of what we were picking up in each other was like the pieces of ourselves that we didn't like, you know? At least that was for me. And still recognizing that you're a badass and someone who my husband adores, But personally speaking, like you were not going to let me off the hook for my nonsense.
And I think that's a pretty shared mutual feeling because this guy was far from healed, and there was a lot of character flaws that were really, really like obvious to anybody who's even, any way to see through the superficial presentation. And I think you're hitting the nail on the head with that. Like when we're in that version of ourselves, we see that in others. So beautiful.
But it's an interesting thing too, like, that's how unhealed people affect each other. It's not just our relationship, but all around the world, like, hurt people, when you can't love yourself, it's hard to love other people to the fullest. And now, that I have been on my healing journey, and we've kinda similar timelines on our healing journey, which is very interesting. It's just opened up my ability to really truly love people in a deep way, including Jay. And he's not difficult to love, by the way. But but it comes from like really truly loving myself, and that's been a whole learning experience for me. And so now I'm just overwhelmed with love for you and for so many people, but especially you.
Thank you.
So it is really a beautiful, evolution for the 2 of us.
Thanks. I agree. I want to go back in time a little bit
Sure.
and tell me about your time with the Sacramento Bee, because this is the Autumn that I met. Who was deeply involved in the world of journalism, and give me more detail in there for our audience. Tell me what that phase of your life was like, and how it brought you to where you are today.
Well, I'm gonna step back a little bit further in history and say that I learned at a very young age that art would be my medium of expression in life. I wanted as a young child, I wanted to help animals, so I was, wanting to be a veterinarian. But then, in high school, I didn't have room for an art class in my schedule, and I realized, like, I need art in my life, like, this is who I am. So somehow I need to find a way to make art, the medium, apply to the purpose, which at that time was animals, but then as I grew and matured, it turned into a love of people and wanting to help people. So a little, fast forward, I discovered photojournalism as a medium to use art to benefit my community. And I went all in on that, was a standout student, got a wonderful job at the Sacramento Bee, which is the paper of record for California. And at the time had multiple Pulitzer Prize winners on staff. And so that was the dream. That's where I wanted to be. And my career was, all-consuming in a lot of ways. Um, I mean, we got to do everything as journalists, forest fires were one of my favorite natural disasters to cover. Uh,
This is my favorite disaster.
yeah, I mean, we had to cover all the disasters. We had to cover the floods and hurricanes 'cause I worked in Florida for a while, and, of course, fires were my favorite, and I kept fire gear in my car in the summer all the time, and flood gear in the car in the winter. So it was very adventurous, and I love that. I love that things were different every day, and I got to see things and hear stories of people's lives. I can't even in this episode cover all the many beautiful stories that I've been able to witness firsthand. Like, you get a front row seat to it because you have the camera. So even the reporter can sit in the back, but with you, the camera, you get right up in there and right close to the action, and so it was a really, really wonderful experience. But I'm gonna go back to the mental health journey a little bit because that's what really matters to me is, um, now in my career is using my art to promote healing. And at the time as a journalist, I really couldn't reach my full potential, I felt, because I struggled with mental health issues that were, unaddressed for a while, and then they were addressed through, the usual therapy, medication, all of that type of thing, but I really suffered a lot of burnout. So I was doing really well, and then I would crash, doing really well, and then would crash. It's like on this so these crashes, you would miss work or you just couldn't perform, things like that. So, even in that state, I did very well, I'm an achiever, but cannot reach your full potential that way.
I'm a functional addict, and I did really well while I was an addict as well. With the same
Absolutely.
roller coaster of like, I'm doing great, I'm out here crushing it, and kaboom, crash, and
Yeah.
useless and non-performer, and keep it, tucked away in my own world so that it doesn't affect my work, it doesn't affect my, social engagements, and but then still be on that brutal ride of, you know, not being okay.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and then, um, there's also something about I've kind of been wanting to talk to you about this, to
Okay.
be honest, and this is a little bit of a segue, but, like, where is the middle ground? Like, can we be okay with ourselves when we are just being mediocre?
Okay. So
Do we have to be high performer or in the depths of despair? Can we be okay when we're just okay and in the middle ground area?
yeah. Oh, actually, you're asking me a question now?
Oh, sorry. Is that okay?
Yeah, totally. Um, I actually have put a lot of thought into this because I've struggled with the kind of performer archetype where a large part of who I've been as a adult has been driven by my relationship with my mother as a young boy. And that was very much based in this idea of needing to perform, to do tricks basically of whatever type, whether it's like achieving a grade A report card, or whether it is doing somersaults or handstands, or doing a wheelie on my bike, or like whatever I could do that would bring my mother to smile, right?
Mm,
Because it was really about making my mother happy, because in her soul there was a lot of unhappiness, there was a lot of sadness. And as a young boy, I couldn't see my mother sad, so I worked really hard to try to make her happy. And of course, we know other people's happiness is not something that we have control over. It's about their own healing journey. But a young children, they don't know this. They just act empathetically, emotionally engaged, intertwined with their parent, and feeling that direct energy as a reflection in their own journey. So they do whatever they need to do to help to try to balance the energy so that everybody can be in more of a homeostasis kind of flow. And that, when my mother passed, that just carried on into the rest of my adult life. And I just moved through my journey trying to find my own happiness, validating my own happiness through continuing to perform at a high level through whatever endeavors I might be in, whether it's work or home or, personal endeavors, careers, athletics, music, arts, name it, right? It's all about how excellent can I be at this? Because that's how I feel that I have worth, I have value. And that's how I get my external affirmation that I am can be loved and I'm worthy of love. And back about 10 years ago, when my professional canopy piloting career came to an end through injury, lower spine injuries, the main source of that faded away, and my healing journey started, right? Of now having to let go of the identity that was self, that was based in this high performer world champion athlete, and now going, how do I validate, and what does performance mean? What does, and then wait a second, where does love come from, and how do I validate, and do I need validation? And then so the whole house of cards is falling apart, right? Like the whole
mhm.
thing has fallen to the ground, and then you're just left with a pile of cards on the floor, and you're going, do I even need to perform? And there's definitely a period in my journey this is kind of the whole reason for the arc of the story here, is that there's a point in the journey where it all falls apart. And then performance doesn't even matter anymore. And it becomes sloth, like just laying there, just going, who cares? What, like, so from that like high to low. And now I would say the journey since my retirement from competition has been one of trying to find that middle ground, find that middle way through performing because I love to perform, but not performing for validation from others. Performing because for me, that's a version of art. That's a version of self-expression, and displaying that through the perfect turn that I try to achieve on the, paragliding that I did the other day, or performing that through the way that we communicate with each other, or how I care for myself, just as a mirrored expression of that, like artful, like I don't want to over care for myself and be like, it becomes an egotistical, or like we're back in this performance ideology, and I don't want to under care. So it's just this like trying to find the balance. So I'm going to point the question back at you.
Sorry, I'm used to being the interviewer.
I know, but this is great, because now I get to segue right through to the same question. You've been at the Bee. I remember your decision to step away and strike out on your own. And this is a terrifying concept. And again, now all your validation doesn't come through somebody else's structure. You're creating it for yourself. And with that follows your spiritual journey. So this is the same journey that I had in another, told in another way. So take me to where the pivot happened and how things have spread out from there with your own work in sorry, I'm stumbling a little bit, the work you're doing now, and how that's mirrored with your spiritual growth.
Yeah, it's interesting because I left the Bee, I think, about a year after I discovered my spiritual path, which is in Vajrayana Buddhism. I've never been a religious person. I never thought I would be, but now I am very much devoted to my spiritual path, and also understanding that Buddhism is also an ideology that can be carried into, Christians can also learn from these concepts. Like, it doesn't have to be the religious expression of it. It can be just the concepts, but for me, it is also both. So, anyways, I did. It usually starts with a story. Like, I heard some monks were creating a sand mandala at this Buddhist center that I had visited once or twice, and decided, oh, this would be a great story for the newspaper. So I went in and I filmed it and created a little film about it, got to interview the leader of the group, and it was just a beautiful introduction to that through the storytelling. But okay, sorry, I got off track. Let's back up a little bit. Previous to that, I had done my first documentary film for the Sacramento Bee that was 20 minutes in length. So it was a serious documentary. And I had been doing photography and multimedia for a while, but when I did that documentary film, I really fell into love with filmmaking specifically as the avenue, because I didn't need someone to write a caption for my picture to explain it. It was all contained together in one narrative piece that I could create with the audio, with the music, with the visuals. It was just everything all wrapped in one, and I saw the power that a film could have, because this film in particular, it was about an inmate wild horse training program, and this particular inmate, his life was changed through his work with horses, and as a result of the film, the community came forward and paid for him to go to a horseshoe training school, which is like $6,000. Not a ton of money, but for someone who's been incarcerated for a long time, they just don't have the funds for that. And the person who funded it was a steely-eyed FBI agent that was
Cool.
retired. So it was just this beautiful thing. So this law enforcement officer paid for him to go to this training, and the film connected him with the community at large. Everyone was cheering him on, and he succeeded. He succeeded. He opened his own horseshoe business. I believe he's got a baby on the way now,
Cool.
but he's fully in recovery. He's a sponsor to other people in recovery, and I saw the power that film could have to connect people. And so at that time, the newspaper business was really crumbling. The staff had been slashed to the bone, but I still went to my boss and I said, I would like to change my job description. I would like to be 100% into video and film, and I believe that it would benefit the Bee in X, Y, and Z way. And they turned it down. And so I was like, well, no one's going to give me the job I want, so I'm going to have to create my own job that I want.
Nice.
So that's I decided to plan my departure. And yeah, so I did. I left from there. I had my second child right after that, and then just started my business, having absolutely no clue how to run a business.
I think you've done a pretty good job
Thank you.
watching the arc of your development since that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what's been really neat is because I've been on this spiritual journey, which has facilitated a complete healing of my trauma. Like, I know that's a big claim to make, but it really is, because if you knew like the depths of where I was at before, I had a very high level of self-hatred, and my mind was a very, very dangerous, horrible, painful place to exist in at all times. My baseline, that was my baseline. My baseline was suffering.
Mhm.
And I had some highs, I had some lower lows, but baseline suffering. I knew no peace, unless I was skydiving
Yeah.
or, at Burning Man or doing something fantastic. It was a baseline of suffering. But now through these practices, my baseline really is love and joy. Like, we go up, we go down, but my baseline on an everyday basis, 24/7, is peace, love, joy. And it's
Cool.
opened me up to, it's funny, once you take the, how do you say, like the meaning out of the performance, it's funny. When you get healed and you get to that baseline, you can perform so much more because that's not actually the end goal anymore.
Yeah.
So because of this clarity that I've gained now, um, I've been able to create a vision for my business that is completely unique as far as I know it. That one thing that we do differently in our business is we're really concerned with how narratives affect people and their mental health. So we're talking about the person who's being interviewed in front of the camera. We set up a trauma-informed environment, which trauma-informed is now being renamed as healing-centered environment. So we're going through that. But
That's a good reframe.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
good, yeah.
it's excellent. So I actually have a social worker that works with me. She comes on sets because we do a lot of stories on trauma, all sorts of trauma. And we are willing to do those really tough storylines, but we're not doing it in a cavalier or a looky-loo type way. We're doing it responsibly by bringing in that extra emotional support. So that's part one. And then part two is we're concerned with how do these narratives affect the audience. So we want to be responsible. We want to avoid racism, sexism, all the isms. We want to make sure that our stories are different and that they're promoting good in our world, not just fundraising. You know, it's a step further. So because I've been able to get in touch with this joy, love, peace as baseline, I've been able to see more clearly on how to create a vision of something that I really want to do and the effect that I want to have in this world.
So there's two things in there that I want to unpack a little further. Um, and then I want to kind of go further back to the spiritual journey and more into the Buddhism side
All
of it,
right, yes, do it.
because
I love talking about that.
yeah, I know it's exciting. It's interesting. I love learning about all the different views, and I'm a big fan of Buddhism. Like, if I was going to have to say what modality would I align with, Buddhism's like right there at the top of the list, next to like Jainism or uh, Shinto. There's a few that are really close together, but I wanted to flash back. I lost one of the thoughts there. So one of them is there's a particular I've listened, watched, read all kinds of your work over the years, and
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah. One of the stories, there's a few actually that come to mind, but there's one I want to touch on, which was a story of the burn victim. He had severe burns. Do you remember who I'm talking about?
We're talking about the kid?
No, he was.
Or are you talking about the quadriplegic?
Yeah,
I don't think I did an in-depth story on a burn victim. I've done burn stories.
yeah. It was so touching because he had such a great attitude.
I think you're talking about the quadriplegic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
The sponsor of today's episode is Great Spirit Farm. Yes. Love having Great Spirit Farm with us, and specifically their ayahuasca microdose tincture. It is a natural MAOI antidepressant and anti-anxiety. Great Spirit Farm describes the feeling as a warm hug. It can help you access deep creativity, flow, intuition, and improve vivid dream recall, which actually has totally been my experience.
So what is exactly in the bottle is the ayahuasca vine itself. So this is a tincture extraction, double extraction tincture that contains the Banisteriopsis caapi vine. Now, the particular vine that this has been extracted from has been growing in Florida now for over 25 years. And the ayahuasca vine does not contain DMT, so that makes this tincture 100% legal in all 50 states.
Yeah, Great Spirit Farm recommends starting with 1 to 3 dropperfuls and increasing your dose gradually from there until you feel the effects. There are no known contradictions with antidepressants, and always check with your doctor and only take as directed.
And what's really great about what Great Spirit Farm is doing is they're making sure that 10% of all the sales are returned to the Shipibo tribe, honoring the medicine's indigenous roots with active reciprocity. Now, if you want to try this tincture out for yourself, you can go to the website that is ayadose.com, AYADOSE.com, and you can enter our discount code TTJ10 to get 10% off your order. Again, that's ayadose.com and all caps TTJ10 to get 10% off your order. I think it's so inspiring. There's so many cases of this where I see people in the world, souls incarnate who are chosen into these brutal experiences, and they smile, laugh, and love inwardly and outwardly with such fervor. It's just rich outpouring of love. Oh, it's the guy with the gasoline who lit himself on fire.
That wasn't my story.
No, you shared it?
My husband did.
Oh.
Yeah, no, he's local. Yeah.
Okay.
He's local to my area, but I didn't get that
Gotcha.
story. But yes, it's a common theme though.
Yeah.
The human spirit.
Did you ever meet Chris Caldwell?
No, but I saw his story.
Yeah. So Chris was a good friend of mine from Florida, from skydiving into land in the early 2000s. We got really tight really fast. We both had like some of those similar backstories and some of the bonding that happened. And he was in a skydiving accident and became quadriplegic. And he evolved as a soul through that journey of being quadriplegic and became such a wise, loving soul, from that kind of hurt, broken, angry young man to into quadriplegic, and then to this wise, renamed himself as he grew, and he's passed on now, and he went through such a struggle. But it's so beautiful to see how our souls evolve that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the work that you do when it comes to helping to tell those narratives, like tell those stories. And so, is there one that you would like to share about that jumps off the page for you?
Oh my gosh. I've been asked this question before. I feel like I should have it in my back pocket
Well,
because
go to
there's
your heartstrings.
so
I know you've got so many,
many
so many.
stories. Oh, and they're all so beautiful. They're almost like one big beautiful story in my mind, to be honest. Just the human spirit and our abilities to rise above and grow and all of these beautiful things. So I'll pick a recent one because it's like picking your favorite child. You really just
That's
can't.
easy.
Okay, so maybe
That's so easy, right?
what?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I love them all, but this one's so much. Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah, it's like a favorite
gosh.
color. Come on.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
But like
Parents, did I
literally,
just do it wrong? I don't
I feel
know.
like the storyline is just so much similar. I mean, each person is this beautiful flower on their own, but they all kind of have the same bones, right? Or the same makeup that makes them be a flower, but they all have different expressions. So that's kind of how I see my stories. It's often a similar narrative that's expressed in a different way. And that narrative that I love and I see over and over again is the person, and ooh, it relates to my narrative.
Mhm.
Maybe
Surprise.
I'm just telling my own story
Big,
over and over again.
big surprise.
And that's that person that's gone through insane difficulty and learned and grown and then decides to help others and pull the next person out, you know, and over and over. So I'll just mention the latest one, and that's Felipe. Felipe, beautiful soul in Riverside. So now I'm gonna have to send this to Felipe, but um, he had a tough backstory where he's in and out of jail and he had some addiction issues and all of that stuff, and he got out of it, and now he works for the justice outreach team for Riverside County Behavioral Health. I think I said that right. And he goes out into the community and finds people that are justice involved, and many of them are on the streets because there's this parallel between homelessness and being involved with the law. Like usually it's going to be both at the same time. So he's working with these people. He's like holding their hand through going through the justice system. He's made friendships with the judge at that um, in their county and the DA, and so they're all working together to benefit each person that comes through, and so he he shows them what it can look like at the other side, and so I got to film him just in 2 days going from his backstory and then following him through his work on the streets, and then we ended up in the court where one of the men that he had, uh, taken to jail and he'd gone through jail and gotten sober, was now on the other side of it, being released, sober, ready to face the world with a job, and that person was able to give him a big hug and say thank you and said, "It was because I saw you succeed that now I can succeed." So it's just beautiful.
That's great. You know my favorite quote from Ram Dass, "We're all just walking each other home."
Yeah,
Really, it's
for
so,
sure.
so true in this idea of like modeling the example, inspiring others to move in a direction. And there's an inertia. It's like the breaking through those waves, the for somebody else to follow behind, it's easier, right?
Yes,
The next person in line can follow
absolutely.
more easily because there's somebody to follow, there's a path, and I think there's very few true leaders out there who actually like cut that path. But we're so grateful for those who do, because it really, like, it does send our energies as a society, as a community, to open up those doorways. It's literally like, oh, now there's a path through the brambles, right? Like I was stuck here. There's no way out. I just view it as stuckness. And somebody's like, I'm going to fight my way through this and I'm going to figure it out. And then here's my hand.
And your path is easier now because I did the hard work. And actually, I feel a little bit like one of those trailblazers in the field of filmmaking itself, because it is very male dominated. That being said, I love male dominated environments. It's fun. Men have fun. Okay. Yeah. Let's say we go skydiving. That's freaking fun. Yeah. You know? So I love, being around men, working with men, and being in those kind of testosterone fueled environments. I think it's really fun. That being said, I love to show up in my feminine energy in those areas and be like, heck yeah, I'm different. Why don't we have a different voice doing this job? Why don't we have a mother telling a story about motherhood? Because that is very rare for mothers to make it in filmmaking for all sorts of reasons. So I like when I feel like giving up, I always think of all my like female filmmaker friends, and I'm like, I've got to make sure that they can see that this is possible with kids, with responsibilities, that we can do this.
Let's pivot that to the motherhood journey now, and let's talk about. So I'll precursor say, when we met, it was largely a time in our lives that had a lot more of that kind of youthful curiosities and a bit more adventure. Burning Man was a regular part of life. Skydiving was a regular part of life. And the decision to become parents and to alter the heading to this, world of responsibility of like redirecting our sole purpose in life to being nurture, provider, security, mother, all the things that come along with that. Tell me about your journey, because I've seen the massive transformation and it's been in parallel with the kind of awakening, right? That those two things have definitely been together. So tell me what you would like to share about that experience.
Well, first of all, I remember when we told you that I was pregnant, and you were like, oh, that's hardcore. Says the guy with multiple world records. Like, being a parent is hardcore, and you're right.
Yep.
You're right.
Endurance race.
And you're also like, right before the birth, like, what man, messages a woman before birth and says, don't get an epidural?
What?
You said that?
Oh my God.
And after the birth, I was like, didn't get an epidural. And you're like, good job.
I don't remember that.
But whatever. Yeah, no. So that was interesting, your response at the time. But yeah, each child was different because I was in and
sorry.
You don't remember?
No, I don't remember.
That's hilarious.
Oh my God.
You're a little bit of a hard ass.
Sometimes I can be a bit gnarly. I'm trying to heal that part of myself.
I mean, luckily I was like not planning on getting one anyway.
Because you're the same. You're just as like,
I'm just gonna do the thing, Well, you know what it is though? It's like, because there's no shade on women, however they choose to birth. But for me, I wanted the whole thing. I didn't want it to be altered in any way. I wanted the full experience. So it was selfish on my part. Like, I wanted the pain, I wanted the glory, I wanted the whole thing.
Yeah.
That was my attitude going in. So anyway, you just spurred me on. So yes, but motherhood, it was definitely after I had my first child, like, my whole world opened up. I experienced love in a whole new way and just fell in love with this baby, you know? It was just like, bam, you know, like, this love. You're like, "Wow," and I'm like, "I'm healed." So I was in this,
Uh-huh.
like, bliss of motherhood for 7, 8 months or 10 months, and then, the hormones shifted, you know, got my period back, and then I was like, "Bam! Oh, I'm still me." And now I've got a kid, and now I've gotta come to terms with myself again, and so that was kinda how that went. You probably didn't know that part of it, but I had a pretty serious postpartum health crisis around 10 months when the hormones shifted.
Mm.
Um, but still, you know, just I don't know, there's something about a child that opens up your heart, you know? I mean, I don't know, just a little beautiful baby. Like, it's just it's mind opening, you know? And then with Sylvan, I actually got pregnant right around when I started my spiritual journey, so that was a completely different experience, and thank goodness I was on my spiritual journey at that point because Kaya was this beautiful, like, peaceful baby,
Mhm.
and Sylvan's like this freaking tornado,
Yeah.
and I would not have been able to handle a tornado, you know, 10 years ago, but now, like, I can handle it. It's still not easy, but he's a firecracker and he's amazing, and some say he's like his Uncle Jay.
I'm very fond of your children. I love them very, very much. And I'm really like I look forward to every opportunity to that I make to come and spend time with them. And just a greeting at the door, just the way the door opens. Yay!
Yeah,
Right? Like
jumping up and down with
jumping.
excitement,
Yeah,
literal.
yeah. Just
Yeah,
that kind of energy. There's nothing else in the world like that, right? But there's the irony of the journey is, give it an hour from that moment and you've got a child that is just out of their mind,
screaming.
screaming at the top of their lungs in pure, you know, panic toward like the kids, yeah, that's a lot, right? Like that's a lot. It's
It
a
is a lot.
lot of energy, a lot of intensity, such a beautiful soul. And he's trying to figure it all out for himself. And he's just 3 or 4 years old or something.
4.
4. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, I applaud your patience and nurture nature. And it is definitely an endurance, right? It's a, what was I call an iron woman, an iron man. It's an iron woman race, right? Where it's not, you don't run fast in an Iron Man or an iron, you just kind of pace yourself at the pace that you can maintain so that you
Yeah.
can think if I stay just at this level, just keep moving, then I can complete the whole thing. And it's really about making it to the end of the journey rather than burning out or breaking something or injuring ourselves partway through or just collapsing from exhaustion from having pushed ourselves too hard. So,
Well, I have to say that the spiritual practices allow all of this to happen, for me, because, yeah, raising children is enough, and then running a business is a lot, and now I'm very involved with my spiritual community, but that's like the fuel on the race. That's the, feeding your body that's keeping you conditioned to do it, so I do a minimum of 1 hour of meditation in the morning, more if my internal alarm clock goes off earlier.
how long have you been doing that for?
Um, an hour, probably a year, but I've been doing meditation that working up to that for 6 years,
Yeah.
and that gives me the resource so I'm filling my own cup in the morning. I'm doing a lot of energy work, breath work, visualizations with deities that can handle big things. I'm bringing that energy into my body. I'm moving it through my body. It's making me feel that strength, and then I'm also working with the calm. So just the sitting, just the basic sitting and getting to know your mind and noticing how your um, your emotions are going to go up, they're going to go down, your thoughts are going to come in, they're going to go out, and just not attaching necessarily to the content of the thoughts, but beginning to understand how your thoughts and emotions work so that you don't have to be swept up in them. So if a kid's having a fit or things are going wrong in the business, like, "Oh, this is not fun," but everything is temporary, so that is integral. Like, that is everything is doing those practices.
I want to kind of touch on one area there in that there's so much that we could unpack or unravel or dive deep into. But there was one thing you said, and it sparked that kind of. I noticed when my eyes start looking upward because it's this like interest. I'm like looking into my own head to say,
That's
oh
cool.
yeah, right, because this is where our like creativity is coming into into the picture. And you said calling in on deities that are large enough to handle these things.
Mm.
And this is a really powerful concept because I grew up in the typical Western culture, Christianity version. So if I call in on a deity, I call in on God or Jesus or Mary, right? Like those were like the top threes, or might have been like call in on an angel entity as an idea. But those were kind of the only options that were available to me. And what has changed throughout my personal journey, and I want to hear some of your feedback on the way this looks for you, is through my time with plant medicines and psychedelics, that list of potential deities, gods, beings, archetypes, whatever name you want to put to that, has continued to expand and expand and expand. And over the last number of years, specifically diving deeper into my plant medicine journeys and my deep spiritual meditations, I've had countless encounters with supremely powerful beings, whether that be the, archetypal God, or whether that be Shiva or Vishnu or Thor or Zeus, like these kinds of ideas of mythological entities, which are all, storylines that humans have given to the experiences that they're having of these powerful deities that exist. So, and I'd be amiss if I jumped over this. I'm so glad I got it. The animal spirits. The animal spirits have been incredible, just
Mm.
incredible,
Yeah.
incredible alliance with the jaguar. Like when you have my personal experience that when the jaguar joined me and stood next to me and said, "I'll fight this battle with you,"
Mm. Oh,
I
wow.
feel protected. I feel mother energy like none other,
Oh, yeah.
right? Like Black
Nice.
Jaguar is like, I'm here to protect the children. And you're like, holy fuck, you're okay. Okay. I think the children are safe with you around, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
think of a mother more capable of protecting their children than a jaguar, you know? The energy of the killer whale. So all these like supreme beings of the natural and the etherical world, opening ourselves up to this idea of like, previously I was looking through a microscope or a
Mhm.
telescope where it's a very
Yeah.
limited view of like, okay, I've got God, I got Jesus, I got Mary. Those are the only things in the world that I can look at to reach for help. Hell no. I've got jaguars, I've got killer whales, I've got the eagle, I've got, you know, Zeus, lightning
Yeah.
bolt. So there's
Yeah.
so much there. And so take me to how calling in these entities has served you to help you shoulder the challenges of being a mother, challenging journeys, navigating the mind within this role, this endurance race of raising kids and being a business owner and being a wife and just being Autumn. Yeah.
Well, I think it's most helpful to preface this by saying that first, before you can start playing with these deities and different identities, we have to have some sense of the fact that identity is a construct.
100%.
It does not exist as this solid, rigid thing that we attach ourselves to. So, the beginning meditation practices are really getting that stability where you can come to the point where you realize that we are all connected. We do not exist as an individual entity, and our identities are fluid and they're our choice, what we can choose to identify with. And this is very powerful once you realize that, and not just in a book reading sense, but as a felt sense
Uh-huh.
that who we are is so fluid. Then we can start letting go of all the pain that happens when we grasp to an identity.
I think anybody who's been on a deep psychedelic journey can relate to the idea of the identity being stripped away, of just completely falling to bits and no longer having this idea of self, and the fear or terror around the idea of losing one's self, like as if
Mhm.
self is all there is. And when
Mhm.
we peel off that wrapper to see what's underneath, and what's in there is the cosmos, you're like, holy crap, that's a lot to deal with. What the
Yeah.
hell? I'll just put my wrapper back on and go hide in this idea that I'm just Jason, or I'm just Autumn, and I'm just anything, just the cosmos. Thank you very much. You know?
Yeah. But we need a functioning, strong personal identity to navigate the world. Our driver's license identity, what it is that we do and how we operate and how we show up in the world. But, once you've gained that stability and that wisdom, then that's just on your card and you can use it. And if you need a different card, you can pull another one out if you want. So, it is important to mention that doing these types of things should be done with support or
100%.
some kind of guidance
100%.
because you don't want to just strip your identity away without having any context or support. Guilty?
I I may have made some questionable decisions in my life when it comes to many different things. I'll just say that.
Okay. Yeah.
Talk about it
So,
in the book.
but I mean, that's why like some of these practices like deity yoga, that sort of thing, those are done as like it's further down the path after you've gained stability and some wisdom, right? So I'll preface it with that. And then I can share, I mean, you can find this stuff on the internet, but really there's many deities that we use in Vajrayana yoga or tap into, but there's two main ones that I'm currently working with that help me in my daily life. And really what they are is, you know, they're they're images or energies that humans have developed to bring out these certain forces, but also because I'm not just making it up myself, there's a whole lineage of people passing them down, so it's also tapping you into, like, thousands of years of wisdom and practice, which is really cool. But literally spending time to connect with, you know, the 2 that I practice, one is Kala Chakra, the other one is Vajra Yogini. Kala Chakra is really an image of enlightened society, and it's a mother and father in union, so there's some sexual energy to it, and, it's like, how do we all get along and come together and make things work? So there's a tremendous amount of power in that. It's saying yes to the world. It's saying yes to chaos.
Yes.
It's saying this
Love
world is chaotic. It's not organized. There's some organization to it, but it's really fluid and chaotic. And so when I when I connect with that in the morning, I literally have gotten to the point where it is a physical sensation that comes into my body. And then you dissolve it, and then you go into your life bringing that in. So if my son's gonna have a freaking tantrum, bring it. It's all right.
Yeah.
It's totally okay. It's fine,
For you. I'm proud of you.
That's advanced practice,
I am
yo.
proud of you. That is,
All
no,
right.
that is
Yeah.
really advanced practice to be able to just be like, okay, tantrum boy, you're cool.
Did you see me lose my cool yesterday?
No, you were totally like banana split, just chilling.
'Cause that's his thing. I'm like, "Man, this kid's got a lot to learn."
Yeah. That was me, by the way. I was that kid on the floor, arms and legs flailing, screaming at the top of my lungs. My mother just looking at me. We're in a shopping mall. We're in the drugstore. I was that like complete torturous, on the spectrum, dyslexic, ADHD.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Thank you.
In a good way.
Same.
So, yeah, it's like that.
I want to pivot right here because first I want to say something. I'm thoroughly enjoying this conversation.
Oh,
We've got
yeah.
so many different ways in here that we can wander around, and I would like to do this again with Melanie because she's got such a magical way of like, ooh, over here. Let's pull this thread. Let's pull this thread. But
nice.
before we do that, I want to find out what you're working on right now, like what's hot in the pan, okay, in your creative pan of fire, like what are you cooking up? And then please tell our audience where they can find all of your work, where they can see everything, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I took on a mentor who was also a fantastic friend of mine, Muse Storytelling, Patrick. I'm mentioning you, and you can see this, so it's all good. And he's really helped me get some of my business stuff in order. So now my business is really taking off in a new way. And that's really exciting to start seeing the numbers adding up in the way they need to add up for me to have some sustainability and start going towards my ultimate goals. But I've got some great clients. But the premiere. I'm having a premiere of a film next month, August 17th, and you can actually purchase tickets online for it. There's an in-person showing as well, and it's going to be a mental health journey where we hold space for a really deep personal story of motherhood. And it's August 17th, and you go to lovinglionheart.com. That's the documentary, and you should check it out. It's going to be really special. And then my work, ethicalnarrative.com, that's my business as a whole. We have a healing films library, so you can go look through a lot of the work we've done. It's categorized into different themes that you can check out. So, yeah, I would love to connect with you.
Ethicalnarrative.com.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any social medias you want to put out there?
Oh, it's all on Ethical Narrative. Yeah,
all right.
it's all connected there.
Well, thank you so much for hosting us.
Yeah.
Trust the Journey in your studio space today. And thank you so much for being part of the family and for being such a wonderful friend and family member to me personally. And I love you. And I'm so grateful for our friendship. And I love your kids and your husband.
Absolutely.
So much. Okay.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's been really fun.
Yeah. Let's do it again.
All right.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone, seriously, for listening, for spending your valuable, valuable time, energy, and heart with us. Every bit of it makes a difference.
Yeah, thank you. We would love it if you could show your support for the show by subscribing on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, or follow us on Instagram. You can always click the like button, leave us a comment, or share an episode with somebody directly.
Like we mentioned, every month we host integration coaching circles. So much good work is happening there. You are invited to join us. Go to trustthejourney.today/integration. The Trust the Journey family includes these integration coaching circles and our private Facebook group where we connect and support each other. Join us by going to our website, trustthejourney.today, and click the orange Patreon button.
Yeah, thanks. It's your support and engagement that make the show possible. Thank you. We're here to connect with you. Feel free to DM us anytime on Instagram. We're at trustthejourney.today. Thank you. We love you.
We love you.
Keep laughing, keep loving, and keep trusting the journey.